Welcome to Home with Justin. The landscape feels alive and relaxed, a blend of careful structure and joyful abundance. That will be the thread that guides the walkthrough. How to design and maintain a cottage-style, pollinator-friendly garden that looks effortless but thrives on clear principles and simple routines. Together we will read the space, choose the right plants, prepare soil and beds, arrange planting for long-season interest, and keep maintenance straightforward so the garden becomes a living room outdoors. Start by reading the site. Walk the area and note sun exposure across the day, prevailing winds, drainage tendencies, and the microclimates created by trees, walls, and the house itself. Look for the key view axes. In this photo, the stepping stones create a strong line that draws the eye to the distant cottage. Preserve that visual corridor. Test the soil by digging a small hole and feeling texture and moisture. Those basic observations tell what plants will succeed and where to place them. Also decide how the garden will be used. A place to stroll, to sit with tea, to grow cut flowers, or to host friends. Use determines scale and circulation. Think in layers, structure first, then seasonal color. Use evergreen or semi-evergreen elements to give the garden backbone. A few low hedges, clipped shrubs, or hardy small trees will hold form through quieter seasons. Position these structural elements to anchor corners, frame the path, and define garden rooms. Around that framework, place mid-height perennials and shrubs for mass and texture, and on the outer edge interplant bulbs and annuals for bright, immediate color. goal is to read the planting as a cohesive composition, whether viewed from the path, a window, or from inside the house. Choose a plant palette that favors repetition and diversity. In a cottage-style garden, repeat a handful of key species or colors across the beds to create rhythm, then introduce variety within that anchor. Think of combining reliable perennials like salvia, rudbeckia, echinacea, and nepeta with airy grasses and soft-foliaged plants such as geraniums and alchemilla. Add spring bulbs, irises and tulips for an early burst and late-season asters and sedum for autumn interest. Intermix biennials and annuals to fill gaps and to provide continuous bloom while the perennials establish. Don't forget plants that attract pollinators. Lavender, verbena, phlox, and foxglove invite bees, butterflies, and beneficial insects that keep the garden balanced. Plan the stepping stone sequence and circulation with intention. The stones in the photo are set with generous gaps that let grass soften the route. Choose a pattern that suits the scale, closer together for slower strolling, farther for a more informal rhythm. Lay stones on a compacted, level base so they remain stable. Use a thin layer of sand under each to seat them and prevent rocking. Edge the path with low, flowing plants or clipped edging, and leave maintenance access for mowing and weeding. Consider adding a secondary path or small side stepping stones that lead to seeding nooks or cutting beds to encourage exploration. Prep the soil and beds for success. Remove perennial weeds and roots, turn the topsoil to loosen it, and incorporate generous organic matter, compost or well-rotted manure, to improve texture and fertility. For heavy, clay soils, add coarse sand and compost to open structure. For sandy soils, add compost and moisture-holding amendments like fine composted bark. Create raised mounds or gentle berms in areas that need improved drainage or to add visual interest. A healthy soil base reduces watering frequency, improves plant health, and makes maintenance easier. Plant in bold drifts rather than single specimens. Large sweeps of the same plant read stronger from a distance and feel more natural. Group plants in odd numbers and in clusters that mimic nature, 3 to 5 together, repeated across the border. When planting, consider mature size and space accordingly. Overcrowding leads to stress and disease. Set taller plants at the back of the border or in the center of rounded beds. Medium at midline, and low or trailing plants at the edge to softly meet the lawn. Incorporate seasonal succession to keep the borders in bloom across months. Layer bulbs under perennials so early spring shows before perennials leaf out. Follow with late spring and summer perennials and heat-tolerant summer annuals, finishing the season with asters, sedums, and grasses that hold color and texture into fall. Stagger flowering times when choosing varieties, early, mid, and late season cultivars, so the visual story changes gradually rather than ending abruptly. Designed for wildlife and pollinators. Include native species where possible. They are adapted to local conditions and support local insects and birds. Provide a diversity of flower shapes and colors to support different pollinators. Flat-top dumbles for hoverflies, tubular flowers for bees and hummingbirds, and open-faced blooms for butterflies. Add water elements like a shallow bird bath or a small bubbler in places for shelter, tussocks of grass, stacked logs, or a small brush pile to encourage beneficial wildlife. Be practical about watering and feeding. Water deeply and less frequently to encourage strong root systems. Use drip irrigation or soaker hoses under mulch to conserve water and keep foliage dry to reduce disease. Mulch beds with organic material to conserve moisture, suppress weeds, and feed the soil as it breaks down. Use slow-release fertilizers at planting and supplement with light liquid feeds during peak growth if needed. Overfeeding encourages floppiness and excess foliage at the expense of flowers. Work within a budget by phasing the garden. Start with the path and a few structural plants. Add mass perennials next season, and fill with bulbs and annuals over time. Propagate by division. Many cottage garden favorites split easily, and trade divisions with neighbors or plant swaps. Salvage stones and wood for features, and slowly build furniture and decorative elements as funds allow. Small, consistent investments often produce a more cohesive, mature garden than a one-time overhaul. Address common issues with simple fixes. For flopping plants, stake or plant them among stronger companions that will support stems. For pest problems, encourage beneficial predators and use hand removal or targeted, least toxic treatments first. If drainage is poor, create raised beds or incorporate gravel and organic matter. For dry, exposed spots, choose drought-tolerant varieties and mulch heavily.